All right, this is the video to show you how to make the Peg Toy board. Unfortunately, the software on my laptop that I typically use for these videos is not working right now, so I had to improvise and use the iPad to record the screen on my desktop. So that's why it looks kind of weird, but hopefully it will still work and we can make this project happen. So the first thing I did is I went to Canvas here to find the requirements for the Peg Toy. So click Peg Toy Slideshow and then click the word here and it will bring up your requirements. Day one we did the pegs. So today we're going to make the board itself. All right, so it says here we need to create a board for your pegs. Should be a different file, a separate file from the pegs. And then it gives you dimensions. The board should be 3/4 of an inch thick, 6 inches long, and 3 inches wide. It needs to have holes that are in the same shape and same size as the pegs. So circle, triangle, square, and they're each 1 inch across. The holes need to be in a straight line through the center of the board and equally spaced. You can make the board any color as long as it's different from the pegs. And then a hint down here, make the shapes in the same sketch and extrude them at the same time. Do not use the hole feature. All right, so I'm going to show you how to do this. So going to Inventor, make a part. All this stuff you already know, so that's why I'm going kind of quickly. Okay, so the way I'm going to make my board is I'm going to draw the top view here and then extrude the thickness. You could draw the side here, you could draw the front here. There's a lot of different ways you could do this, but I think it's easier to just draw the top and extrude it that way. So on Inventor here, I'm going to make a rectangle. I guess you can't quite see that on my screen, but I'm just clicking rectangle up there. And then I'm going to make the rectangle. It's supposed to be 6 inches long and 3 inches wide. And it's kind of zoomed in here, so I have to zoom out a little bit. There we go. All right, got it centered finally. So there's my rectangle, 6 inches long, 3 inches wide. Finish my sketch. I don't know why it's doing this. There we go. All I did was click the little house and it centered it for me. So now I'm going to extrude it. Again, you should already know how to do this part, so I'm going kind of quickly. Should be 3/4 of an inch. That's 0.75. All right, so now I've got my board here, and I need to make the holes. So you don't want to click the hole. What we actually want to do is click we're going to start the sketch, just like when we made the linking cube, and we drew the circle and then extruded it either in or out, depending on whether we wanted the peg or the hole. Doing the same thing here. So I'm going to click Start 2D Sketch. Again, you can't quite see it on your screen, but I'm just clicking Start 2D Sketch. And then you want to click the front of your board here. Okay, I'm going to make my circle. So just click Circle. I'm going to turn this just a little bit so you can see it better. There we go. All right, so I'm going to click my circle. Should be 1 inch across. Now again, you want to make all the shapes on the same sketch. So I'm going to go ahead, see if I tilt this down, maybe that might make it easier to see. There we go. I'm going to make my square. Should be 1 inch by 1 inch. And then remember to make the triangle. It's the same way as making the triangle peg. You're going to click this little part, this little triangle underneath the word rectangle, or yours might say polygon. You want to find polygon. Type in 3, because triangles have 3 sides. Click on your screen and move it. It will make a triangle. It doesn't really matter how you put it on there, but I'm going to go ahead and make mine as close to... Well, it's not really coming out very vertical, so I'll just go ahead and click. All right, now I need to make it the right size, just like I did with the peg. I'm going to click the top and the base, 1, and there we go. I got my 3 holes. Now, nobody's going to buy a product that looks like this. This looks horrible and sloppy. Looks like a middle school student who didn't care at all about their project was the one who created this. So we need to make it look nice because people want their things to look neat and orderly and nice. And so the first thing we're going to do is center everything between the top and the bottom edge here. I'm going to call this the top edge, this the bottom edge for right now. So you're going to use dimension because you can't just click it and move it. Okay, now the circle, you want to use the middle point here. And either the top or the bottom, doesn't matter which one you click. Mine's already centered at 1.5. If yours is not, you'll want to type in 1.5 and push enter. Now you only need to do either the top or the bottom. You don't need to do both. This is already 3 inches from top to bottom. If it's 1.5 from the top to the middle point here, it has to be 1.5 from the middle point to the bottom. So I don't need to put that in. In fact, if you try to put it in, it's going to tell you that you're doing too much on too many constraints. What? I don't know why it's doing that. Try this again. And I click, and it tells me it's over constrained because I don't need that constraint. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do my square now. Now the square is a little bit different because you're not using the middle point. So if the whole length from top to bottom is 3 and the square is 1, then that means to make 3 inches, I would want 1 inch on top, 1 inch for the square, 1 inch on bottom. So I'm going to click the top edge here of the square, top edge of my board, move and click on my screen, put in 1, and now my square is centered. Now the triangle is a little bit trickier. You have to use 2 points. If I just do the 1 point and bottom and make that 1, you can see the triangle's still turned at a weird angle. And nobody is going to like the way that looks. People like their shapes, their lines parallel or perpendicular. So we want to make this line parallel to the bottom edge here. So the way we're going to do that is click this other point, click on the bottom edge, and set that to 1 also. Now our triangle has the bottom edge here is parallel to our bottom edge of our board. It looks much more orderly. Now we need to center them between the left and right edge. There's not any particular exact number you have to do for this. The way I'm going to do mine, you can make yours a little bit different if you want. But I'm going to go ahead and do the right edge of my square hole and the right edge of my board. Now, since the whole thing is 6 inches across, that means the middle would be at 3. And it's a 1/2 inch from the middle to the edge of my square, so I'm going to take a 1/2 off. So I want this to be 2.5. And that'll put the square right in the middle of my board. All right, now for the circle, I'm going to click the middle point and the edge here. And I don't know, I'm going to try 1 and see how that looks. Now I'm going to do the same thing on my triangle. Now for this part, you can use this dot here. This dot is the middle point between these 2 points. It is not the middle point between the top and the base. It's actually a bigger distance between the top and the point and the base. It's the dot is the middle point between the 2 corners. So I can use it for this point, for this part. So I'm going to click the middle point, right side, click, set that to 1, and see how this looks. So, I don't know. I think they're a little bit too far apart now that I look at it. So I'm going to double click my dimension over here, and I'm going to change that to 1.25, see if I like that better. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Oh yeah, I like the way that looks a lot better. So that's where I'm going to leave mine at. So I'm going to finish my sketch, and I've got all 3 of my shapes here on my board. Now I'm going to click extrude. Can't quite see it on the screen, but I'm just going to click extrude. Now here's the tricky part. Turn this just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. You have to click inside each shape. So see how it turns green? That's what you want. Inside the square, inside the triangle. Now I don't want them to stick out, I want them to cut in. So over here, I'm going to click this one, which is cut. And if it doesn't change this, you got to click on this also. If it's still here, you have to click this part. But mine did it automatically. And OK. And now if I turn it, you can see they've been cut all the way. Oh, you can't see. Let me move this a little bit. Now you can see the holes have been cut all the way through my board. They're evenly spaced, centered from top to bottom. Now all you need to do is color your board, which you should already know how to do, and then make sure you save it.